Hey, it's Vincent here, and thank you so much for your interest in truck-kun, our Isekai card game. Now, this game has been way more fun than we could have ever expected. I literally just woke up from a dream one day and just had this vision of this game, and so I had to put it together, and within 1 year, we managed to make this game a reality. So thank you so much for all your support. If you're here, that means that you may be a little confused about the rules, or maybe you haven't picked up the game, but you're interested and want to learn more about the rules. So let's dive right in. Alright, so right off the top, the objective of this game, if you're playing against your friends, is to be the first player to make it to 20 points. In the round, if you manage to make it to 20 points and so does someone else, then it's whoever has the most points. So if someone has 23 points, someone else has 20 points, the player who reached 23 points is the one that wins. So, whenever you start the game, everyone playing will get a set of character cards. You want everyone to have the same set of character cards. They are numbered 1 through 8, which you can tell on the top corner here. But the way that you can distinguish this is on the bottom of every character card, there is a color bar indicator. And so you can quickly just pull out all the reds, put that for one player, all the yellows, all the cyans, all that stuff. They're actually colorblind friendly. It's the most colorblind friendly colors because I am colorblind, so I want to make sure that my games are fully playable and enjoyable for people that may struggle being colorblind like I am. So start the game off, everyone gets the same 8 character cards separated by the colors at the bottom. You'll have one of each character. Now if you have one of the limited edition sets, you will have Trixie, who is also a level 7 with Emma. If you and your friends want, you can play with both of them, but the idea is that you pick and choose. You can all choose one at random, or you can choose the one that suits your fancy the most, or all agree to play the same character. I recommend, if you're just starting the game out, to start with the Princess Emma instead of Queen Trixie. So there you go. These cards will all be in your hand, and no one else will see them, but everyone has the same cards unless you decided to have where some people mix up Trixie or Emma. But in general, you guys will know what each other has. So those stay in your hand. So the way that you get points is by forming Isekai. And before you get started, you also want to make sure everyone has one of these truck stop cards. These are basically your player info cards. They give you a quick rundown of the game, as well as showcase some of our other games on the back. But essentially, this tells you what all the gems stand for as far as their points. So the blue gem crystals are 1 point, for example. And yeah, so everyone gets one of these, and it just helps you play the game, keeps you on track. So for each player in the game, you will form an Isekai. An Isekai is a combination of one subject and one world card. So for example, if we flipped over these two off the top of the deck, you have Sentient AI in Slow Internet World. So some cards don't have any effects, like the Sentient AI doesn't have any effect on itself, but Slow Internet World does. And so if you see the yellow box there with the little profile picture, that tells you that this one's about Blue Phantom, who's our villain card. And if you don't know who the Blue Phantom is, that's perfectly fine, because you will see that same exact picture in your hand, and it says Blue Phantom up here next to villain. So that has a special effect if you play that character, which is described there. Now in the rulebook, it tells you what each of the special effects do in the game, because there's some effects that will have a little icon, but we didn't just leave it up to the icon to explain it. We wanted to include what the effect does. So if you see this little lock, it means that the Isekai's value can't be changed. And it tells you that in the rulebook as well, but we also wanted to put it there on the card so you didn't have to second guess yourself when it comes to that. So say you form all the different Isekai, say you're playing with 2 people, so you're going to make 2 of these, so this counts as one subject, one world forms 1 Isekai. You would then form another one here. Then you're going to roll 1d6 per Isekai, so if we're playing 2 players, we roll 2 dice. And then you're going to attribute the 2 points to one world and then 1 point to the other Isekai. So 2 on one Isekai, 1 on the other. If those Isekais have any effect, you'd apply that. One of the effects is called Familiar, in which you add another Isekai, so even if you're doing one-on-one, in that particular round, you may actually have 3 Isekai instead of 2, because that's what the Familiar effect is. So when you start the game, you want someone to start off with this little truck, a little truck-kun token here, and essentially he is your initiative breaker, so that will come up in a second. So say hypothetically, one isekai is worth 6 points, and then one over here is worth 1. We'll just say, like, okay, I'm just gonna put this here just as a, oops, I'm breaking my own stuff going on. All right, so ignore that. Okay, so say if this isekai is worth 6, and this one is worth 1, the way you determine which player gets which isekai is both players will play a card face down from their hand, and then at the same time everyone reveals. So say in this scenario we have one person who revealed the 8 as the villain, and the other person revealed the 7 as the princess. Whoever has the highest number has their effect activate first, then the level 7, then level 8 gets the effect pulled off first, and then the level 7. So for example, in this case, the villain says gain +1 point for every princess in play. The princess says gain +1 point for every hero in play. So in this scenario, since you played the villain, if you are in fact the one who played the villain, you get +1 point for your opponent making the mistake of playing the princess, and then on top of it, you get to gain the 6 points because you get first dibs. And then the player who played the princess has to take what's left and get the 1 point. Now, let's say hypothetically, both of you play the princess. Maybe the other opponent's like, I think they're going to play the princess, I'm going to play the princess and try to stop them. So you both play the princess. So the player who then gets to go first and win ties is the player with truck-kun. So then you may think, well, it's not fair if that person always has that. Well, after this round's over, the truck drives to the next player in clockwise fashion. Therefore, if you tie the next round, that player goes first, and it keeps going back and forth, so players will switch up on who wins ties. So in that case, it would also not be great for player 2. However, if I were to play the villain, like in my first example, level 8, really hard to beat because that's the highest number in the game, and player 2 plays the hero, well, the hero is the level 1, but he does say the hero takes their turn before all villain characters. And then in this instance, since player 2 did not play the princess, the villain gets no points from his effect. The hero goes first, takes the 6 points, and then the villain just gets the 1. So that would be the perfect counterplay in that instance. Say this, maybe as player 1, you think player 2 will play the villain, but really player 2 plays the princess, and so you both reveal. And you wasted your hero, so now you no longer defeat the villain. And the princess says that you gain +1 point for every hero in play, and now you get the 6. So in this instance, whoever plays the princess, player 2, will get the 6-point isekai and 1 point for player 1 playing the hero. And then the person who mistakenly played the hero gets 1 point. So after this is all said and done, your characters are discarded, and then you play a new round, which means you form a new isekai for each player. So we're going to form 2 new isekais. We roll the dice again. We have a 6 and a 3. Put that however you want. The truck moves over to the next player so they win ties. And then you can no longer use the characters that you had already played. So then you start memorizing and paying attention to what characters players have played. And you can sort of game around it because each character has their own counter plays and their own synergies. And if you can guess what your opponent's going to play, you're definitely going to have a way better advantage playing truck-kun. So despite it being a silly premise, there's a lot of strategy involved because that was just showcasing, 3 of the characters in the game, and there's 8 characters in the game, not counting the bonus characters. So that is the basis of the truck-kun. Now, if you want to play the co-op version against the boss, I wasn't initially planning on showing that off. So I don't quite have him ready, but let's see. Where's our little boss character at? Alright, so if you want to play against the boss, the default one in the base game is Nephirox. You can get the boss expansion pack to add more bosses if you want, but essentially you want to beat him by getting his win condition. So Nephirox's objective to defeat him is every player needs to get to 20 points or more and have 0 negative points. So when you basically play the gameplay the same, where you're forming isekais per player, and you want to gather points, but you want to make sure that your teammates can also get points as well, so it's not just you in the lead, because you need everyone to win in order to beat the boss. Now, some of the more interesting parts of the game is whenever you form the isekai, if you roll a 6 off the bat during forming the isekai phase, then you put a final counter onto the boss card. And every time he gets a final counter for Nephrox, he devours one of the Isekai. And so no one can get points from that one anymore. And it's based off the first one that's made that round. So whatever the first Isekai was, Nephrox devours it. Once it gets to 5 final counters, the boss wins the game at the end of that round. So it's basically a countdown timer, and you're not sure exactly how fast it'll count up. Now, good news is if you start the round and you roll 2 6s, 3 6s, 4 6s, whatever it may be, he can only get 1 final counter max per round. So you don't have to worry about things being so unlucky that you just roll a bunch of 6s and then he builds up his counters out of nowhere and beats you. So there is that, and each of the bosses play slightly differently, but the rules are the same as far as the core rules. On top of that, perhaps the most tricky part of it is that when playing, you can work together in any capacity that you want, but you're not supposed to signal or tell your teammates which character you're playing. This could lead to very interesting scenarios where some of the Isekai come out negative, and you don't want to gather negative points because to defeat Nephrox, you can't have negative points. So if someone plays Kyugen the Wizard, his ability says you can take a positive value and make it negative, or you can take a negative value and make it positive. So if there's a negative value in play and someone plays the Wizard, they can make it positive. The problem is if 2 players play the Wizard without knowing the other one will play the Wizard, then someone has to make it negative or make the negative positive, and then someone then makes that positive a negative. So it really makes it so you have to try very hard. Now, if that's the case, you can play the Maid, who's able to remove some negative points from a player, and she's also able to take in negative points that round and it not count against you at all. So it basically just washes those negative points away. And then there's also the Shopkeeper, who can pick characters back up from your discard pile and use them again, and remove Isekai from play. So there's a lot of utility that you can use in the game, and it's all about that counterplay and all about trying to work together. So whether or not you want to play PvP or co-op, Truck-kun's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend you checking it out. We got a limited number of our box sets here, but it's a ton of fun. It comes in our special manga box edition games, which you can check out there. Be sure to check out our website, vindicatedentertainment.com, and our Discord community, where we discuss games and anime of all sorts and types. So thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Take care and stay awesome. Hey, what is up? If you are a fan of anime and tabletop games, then be sure to check out our card games, tabletop role-playing games, and even our manga. We have a lot of fun stuff over there for you to check out on our website, vindicatedentertainment.com. We even have a brand new tabletop role-playing game, Black Paper Moon. Check it out, and we'll see you there.